It's real easy to make raised panel doors if you have the proper shaper or router bits. This bit right here with the bearing on the top, that's for making the raised panel, the center board. And you'll see how I use that in a moment. These two bits here are a set, and they're for making the rails and the stile. Okay? And then we also have another bit that you could use, which is a stacked rail and stile bit. But my preference actually is, if you're going to be purchasing these, to get a set. And once you practiced a little bit and read the directions on it, you need to make a template, and that'll make setup very easy. These are the rail cuts, okay, and they're the ones that slide in to the stiles, just like that. And then your raised panel is going to go into the middle. What you want to do is also make these a little bit long, your rails that go into your stiles. You want to make your stiles a little bit long and trim them in the end. Alright? I'll show you how it all goes together. This is the bit that we use to cut the raised panel, the center floating panel, and the material rides on this roller bearing. And the way that I set this is I just set my two fences, my in feed and my out feed, right up against that bearing. Okay? And I like to lower it so that when I take my stock, I can put it up against it and put a bar that will clamp it down in place. Now I'm not trying to pinch it, I'm just trying to have it so that the board won't walk up on me. See, I want it to go pretty smoothly. I don't want it to get pinched. A little bit tight right there. And that keeps my hands away from the bit. And then I'm just going to slowly raise it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the two ends first, because if I get tear out, when I rip down the sides, it'll be cleaned up from there. So always do your end grain first and then your sides. Alright, let's give it a whirl. Don't try to remove too much material in one shot. So, turn it on. I gradually work up on my edge until it fits comfortably into my template. Once you put your stile bit in, that's the one that usually are the short pieces of a door, the bottom and the top. They're called the rails. And those are the ones that we're going to cut first. And the reason for that is when you get chip out, when you go along the long edges, it will clean that up for you. Once you've got your bits the way that you like them, you should cut out templates, okay, with the way that you like it, okay? And in that way, the next time you go to do a setup, it's real quick, okay? And just remember, when you do your stiles, you cut it with the face down. Some people buy a sled to make these pieces. I don't do that. The only trick that I have for you is I have a sacrificial piece on the end that helps with my tear out. And what I do is I use a clamp, just like this. And I clamp them together. And then using a speed square, I run it along like that. Okay? And you'll get a feel for what I'm talking about. Let me do one and I'll show you what it's about. That's all there is to it. Hit that with sandpaper and she'll be good. Okay, when I cut my stiles now, first off I like to have them 2.5 inches in width and cut all my material to length. And you do your rail ends first and then you do this long groove down the inside of your stiles and rails with this bit here. And it's just easier to show you. Let's go on. Now when you go to do the shaping of the rails, they're so short that you want to make sure that you use a push stick to keep your fingers away from the cutting bits. And you also want to have the face of it, the part that faces you, down, like so. Alright, let's do it. Okay, let's test fit everything. And when you do this, this is just a rough assembly, but I would paint or seal this, whether you use a stain or a paint. Do the whole thing. This panel has to float in this. Don't add glue. Just glue to the edges here. All that glue surface. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Okay. Our panel. Piece. Not a bad looking raised panel door. These are what European hinges are. They're cup hinges and they adjust this way and this way, making alignment of cabinet doors so easy. So let's go out into the garage now. About installing these European hinges, specifically this cup part. I use this alignment jig that I purchased. I believe this one came from Home Depot, but all of them carry these kind of items, and it's specifically for installing European hinges. Let me give you an example. Take your little jig, and there's going to be 3 holes already drilled in it. That's going to be for the cup and the 2 screw holes. And I'm just going to show you how to drill out the cup using a simple hand drill. Take the center of the Forstner bit, and we're only going to go down to the top of this, okay, and put it directly on that mark. That's all there is to it, and let's take a look at how we did. Perfect.